What you in for?
You giving alcohol to minors?
Are you crazy? Don't you know that early alcohol use in kids is associated with academic failure and alcoholism later in life?
Alcohol can cause alterations in the structure and function of the developing brain, which continues to mature into the late 20s.
Wish my parents would have known.
Underage drinking is more than illegal. It's science. Learn about the laws and science of underage drinking at sharedfuturecoalition.org.
I'm here to do revolution. This is a day, not looking for, but for a place to die. Do you dare to be scared in this dream?
Big Tobacco has targeted trend-setting hipsters to sell cigarettes in the U.S.
Now, revolution. Now, revolution.
You know that smoking is bad for your body. You also know that the longer you smoke, the worse it is for your body. But what you may not know is how good it is for your body to quit smoking, and that the longer you go without smoking, the healthier your body becomes. After only 20 minutes from your last cigarette, your blood pressure, pulse rate, and the temperature of your hands and feet all return to normal. After 8 hours, the nicotine in your bloodstream reduces by 93.25%. After 12 hours, your blood oxygen level increases to normal, while your carbon monoxide level drops to normal. After 24 hours, your quitting-related anxieties peak and will return to pre-quitting levels within 2 weeks. After 48 hours, damaged nerve endings are regrowing, and your sense of smell and taste are returning to normal. At this time, your quitting-related anger and irritability peak. After 72 hours, you are 100% nicotine-free. Your withdrawal symptoms already peaked, the bronchial tubes in your lungs are relaxing, and you're now breathing easier. After 5 to 8 days, you're having an average of 3 cue-induced cravings each day, and no craving lasts longer than 3 minutes. After 10 days, you have less than 2 cravings a day, each less than 3 minutes. After 2 weeks, the blood circulation in your gums and teeth are similar to a non-smoker. After 2 to 4 weeks, your quitting-related anger, anxiety, impatience, insomnia, restlessness, and depression are gone. After 2 weeks to 3 months, your risk of heart attack is dropping and your lung function is improving. After 3 weeks to 3 months, your circulation is improved, your chronic cough disappeared, and you are walking easier. After 9 months, your sinus congestion, fatigue, and shortness of breath are decreased. The cilia in your lungs, which keep your lungs clean, are regrown, and you have increased energy. After 1 year, your excess risk of coronary heart disease, heart attack, and stroke are now half the excess risk of a smoker. After 5 to 15 years, your risk of having a stroke is the same as a non-smoker. After 10 years, your risk of lung cancer is 30 to 50% of a smoker's risk. Your risk of death from lung cancer is reduced by half, and your risk of pancreatic cancer is the same as a non-smoker. Your risk of mouth, throat, and esophagus cancer is also reduced. After 13 years, your risk of tooth loss is the same as a non-smoker. After 15 years, your risk of coronary heart disease is the same as a non-smoker. After 20 years, the risk of death from smoking-related causes is now that of a non-smoker. good as new. Learn how to quit smoking and return your body to health. Visit quitsmoking.com.
Don't make me throw it down. Don't make me throw it down. Get down. Don't make me throw it down. Don't make me throw it down. Get down.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Evans, and I think quitting smoking is a journey. For some, it's a short journey full of resilience, but I think for most, it's a long journey, a long affair, if you will, of quitting and relapse. A complicated relationship that can have as much to do with a person's relationship with themselves as with the cigarettes. What starts as a pleasant sensation, opportunity to rebel, or even to belong, is replaced by less pleasure and a feeling of being trapped. A daily or hourly ride of nicotine withdrawal, and then another cigarette which brings relief. Most teens who smoke think they will quit in their 20s and actually don't till their 40s. Stopping smoking is about making a change, and that is something we're not too good at. When I think of change, I think of two concepts: where you are at and the mechanics of how we change. So we should start where you are at. When I started medical school, I thought I could take somebody who smoked and convert them into a non-smoker in one fell swoop. Now I see it differently. I focus on where the person is at. You may be in what we call pre-contemplation, where you're not really even thinking about change. Approximately 75% of smokers want to quit, but 25% are not interested. Maybe you're at the contemplation stage, thinking about it, but not quite ready to act. Next is preparation. This is critical with smoking, especially in the likely event that you've tried to quit before. What has worked in the past and what hasn't? What caused the relapse? Maybe you're at the action stage. This is when you're ready to make your move. There's never a perfect time to quit, and at one point you just have to jump. I'll tell my patients, hey, it's going to be a challenge now, and it's going to be a challenge in 5 years, so why not do it now? And finally, there's the maintenance stage, where you become a non-smoker and are trying to stay that way. When we make changes, it's critical to stop and think, how important is this change to me, and how confident am I in making this change? What we call your self-efficacy. Your job is to be honest. My job is to see if I can move your scores towards 10. The second concept is about the different parts of change. So there's the what. What are we changing? With smoking, I suppose it is straightforward, stopping. But if you think about it, you might be changing lots of things. I think it is like a relationship breakup. You start by just keeping things simple and low risk. You might break up your routine a little bit, avoid certain places, maybe use that juicer every morning to distract yourself. But you will need to change more than your smoking to stop your smoking. The next is the why. Why change? I feel like I could do a 10-minute video just on all the medical reasons why not to smoke, and they are legion, but I'm going to spare you. Partly because you already know, partly because you don't need any more guilt, and partly because in clinic I actually spend more time asking people what they like about smoking. Which sounds funny, but I think we have to recognize there are positives, or at least perceived positives, and I think it's important to reframe these perceptions if we are to make a change. So let's run through a few of the common ones. Cigarettes are my friend. They de-stress me. They relax me. I'm not going to deny that you may feel a sense of relief and satisfaction when you have a cigarette, but I see it a bit differently. You have a nicotine addiction. The nicotine in tobacco is highly addictive. Within a few seconds of inhaling, it travels to your brain, causing you to have a temporary high. Over time, your brain changes, causing you to smoke more to get the same effect. We rate your addiction to nicotine with a few simple questions. Do you smoke more than 15 cigarettes a day, or smoke within 30 minutes of getting up in the morning? Do you find it difficult to go more than 4 hours without a smoke? The power of nicotine comes from the repeated small doses you give yourself when you smoke. It may seem innocent at first, but if you take 15 puffs from a cigarette and smoke, say, 20 cigarettes a day, that's 300 drug doses a day. You think smoking relieves your stress or is satisfying, but it actually isn't. The cigarette is just making your nicotine addiction go away. Smoking doesn't make your concentration better. It just calms your nicotine receptors' cry for more. Smoking makes your heart beat faster, increases blood pressure and breathing. These are all symptoms of stress, not stress reduction. Let me repeat that. The cigarette just reduces your nicotine stress, not your real stress. I've got a lot of trigger times. Coffee, sex, meals, certain people, break times, telephone calls, the car. There are a lot of triggers you're going to have to prepare for. You got to change your coffee routine, plan something to do right after meals, throw out your car ashtray. I have no advice on sex, but make a plan for breaks or the telephone with lots of distractions. Know that when you have a hunger or caffeine or other types of pangs, you also have a nicotine pang that needs to be satisfied. You have associated these, but they're actually separate. Alcohol and parties double the risk as you have the association, plus you're imbibing something that tends to lower your resolve. I want something in my hand. Yes, you are making maybe 300 hand motions a day. You may need to replace this by chewing gum or chewing on a straw or a cinnamon stick or playing on your cell phone to keep your hands busy to replace this daily habit. I will gain weight. Yes, you might, but I think this is actually more marketing than reality, what I call the Virginia Slims effect. On average, people who quit gain about 2.5 kilograms or 5 pounds. So 2 thoughts on this. Firstly, if this is a concern for you, you might want to focus on strategies that affect calories in and calories out, such as your new daily routines might focus on walking, a special emphasis on being mindful of emotional eating, or that your hand-mouth routine includes carrots or celery sticks. My second point is about perspective. A possible 5 pounds may be important from a vanity perspective, but from my doctor perspective, the health return is spectacularly higher when you stop smoking. Remember, we said smoking was a relationship. Part of the healing of stopping a damaging relationship is starting new healthy relationships. So now is the time to start a deeper relationship with your bicycle or salads or walking or gardening or your supportive friends. Next is the how. What are the skills required to change? How do I change with the emphasis on I? So what works? Well, let's start with willpower. It's a strange word. On the one hand, it permeates behavior change and all the interventions we talk about. It's also a word I don't love as people see it as black and white. If a person succeeds, they have willpower, and if they fail, they have no willpower. The science of willpower in smoking gives a mixed message. Approximately 5% of smokers who try to quit cold turkey achieve prolonged abstinence for 6 to 12 months, with most relapsing in the first 8 days of attempting to quit. On the other hand, most people who quit do so unassisted. Maybe 2/3 to 3/4 of people do so by themselves. Reconciling these two stats reveal the natural history of smoking cessation, that, quote, failures are part of this process and can be seen as dress rehearsals for the eventual success. Another key pearl here is the data which tells us that our perception of the quitting smoking experience is often much darker than reality. In a British study of people who were surveyed about their quit experience, 53% said that it was not at all difficult to stop. 27% said it was fairly difficult, and the remainder found it very difficult. So to summarize, you can do it by yourself, and it may be less difficult than you think. On the other hand, it looks like your chances are better if you layer on some other tactics. So if you fail, try again and think about adding another strategy. Some say there are 2 types of cigarettes, those that are dealing with your nicotine addiction and those that have become part of a routine. So let's see what works for both these types of cigarettes. Let's start with treatments that have not been proven effective and where you may be wasting your money. Now, some of my patients have found they help, and to be honest, if they stop your smoking, I suppose I don't really care. But under this category, I put laser therapy, acupuncture, and hypnosis. When we compare these treatments to a placebo or just compare them to the quit rates of people on waiting lists, the rates don't appear to be improved. Next is medications to help stop smoking. The data shows that medications, especially when combined with behavioral support, can double your chance of success. Many patients are resistant, which I get, but I also see an irony in the fact that people are willing to inhale chemicals much, much worse for them, but they won't take a medication for a few weeks or months to stop smoking for the rest of their life. If we use nicotine replacement therapy as an example, it allows people to deal with the addiction of nicotine without having to inhale the other 7,537 chemicals in cigarettes. And that's what I worry about. People die. 2 full 747s of people a week in Canada from smoking, not nicotine. Nicotine replacement therapy comes in multiple forms, and there is usually less nicotine than what you get in a cigarette. You can put on a patch, which is easy and discreet. You can chew gum, although in a different way than you usually chew gum. You can suck on a lozenge, or you can use an inhaler. The patch gives you a nice baseline nicotine level to lower your cravings. The latter three offer the advantage of flexible dosing when you have a nicotine craving, and a familiar routine of opening packages and putting something in your mouth. Important things people need to know about nicotine replacement therapy are, firstly, you can design your own nicotine program. You do not need a prescription. Prefer the patch and then the gum or lozenge or inhaler for breakthrough cravings? Great. Maybe you smoke under 10 cigarettes a day and just want to use the gum when you need it. Your pharmacist can really help here. People get a bit confused with the cost. NRT is generally cheaper than smoking, but you might be buying a month at once. Money-wise, of course, it's a no-brainer. A pack a day is maybe $3,600 a year. Imagine what you would do with that money. Imagine what you would do with 10 years of that savings. Secondly, with nicotine replacement, you can stop cold turkey, or you can wean down your smoking. Taking nicotine and smoking together does not increase your risk of heart attacks. Smoking does. You probably started smoking gradually, and I guess the same can be true of stopping. If you feel you need another month of NRT, then that's fine. I'm not going to go into details of pills for smoking cessation, but I will give you a quick overview of the two most known ones. The first is Zyban or bupropion. It started just as an antidepressant, and then users found their desire for smoking dropped and they were able to quit more easily. Champix, or Chantix in the US, is varenicline, and it is a newer option that may be even more effective, but also has some side effects that may make it not for everyone. You can discuss these options with your doctor or other healthcare provider, as the counseling needs to be individualized. The final approach is the behavioral interventions. I covered some of this ground, but I don't think people realize how many fantastic resources are out there for them. Governments make a lot of money from people who smoke, and they funnel into superb programs. You want a text message, a supportive email, you want expert counseling, want to be connected with other people going through the same thing, or who have just been there. Or maybe you just want to talk to someone. Go online, call the helpline, buy the book, get the message. In the first months following quitting, I want you to prepare for the roadblocks of risk and stress. So avoid high-risk situations. You know what they are. You might want to tell the people involved in advance. And I want you to focus on stress reduction. Stressful things are going to happen to you, but you create the stress. Tell people, hey, I'm quitting smoking this month, so what's the least stressful strategy that works? I also get people to think about the 3 A's. Avoid situations you know are stressful for you. Alter expectations. So when you look at your to-do list, be realistic. Manage expectations up front before it's stressful. And the final A is acceptance. If we use driving as an example, traffic jams, bad drivers, and flat tires happen. Take a deep breath, focus on what you can control, and accept what you can't. Now, let's say you quit smoking. That's excellent. You've broken up. So what now? Well, first of all, you're great. Secondly, there's going to be some ups and downs. More ups, especially after you get through the first months. But some of the things to expect with nicotine withdrawal are cravings, and these don't follow a perfect line. Headaches, nervousness, irritability, trouble sleeping, and you may want to eat more, so have some healthy foods ready. And also people tend to have more of a cough as their lungs self-clean. Finally, the Japanese have a proverb that success is falling down 7 times and getting up 8 times. If you get derailed, don't feel guilty. As I said at the beginning, this is a journey. Come back and see us. This is the best thing I can do for you. Don't learn helplessness. Learn about yourself and get ready for the next round. And thanks for listening.
One of the most exciting scientific findings of the past half-century has been the discovery of widespread trophic cascades. A trophic cascade is an ecological process which starts at the top of the food chain and tumbles all the way down to the bottom. And the classic example is what happened in the Yellowstone National Park in the United States when wolves were reintroduced in 1995. Now, we all know that wolves kill various species of animals, but perhaps we're slightly less aware that they give life to many others. Before the wolves turned up, they'd been absent for 70 years, that the numbers of deer, because there was nothing to hunt them, had built up in the Yellowstone Park, and despite efforts by humans to control them, they'd managed to reduce much of the vegetation there to almost nothing. They'd just grazed it away. But as soon as the wolves arrived, even though they were few in number, they started to have the most remarkable effects. First, of course, they killed some of the deer, but that wasn't the major thing. Much more significantly, they radically changed the behavior of the deer. The deer started avoiding certain parts of the park, the places where they could be trapped most easily, particularly the valleys and the gorges. And immediately those places started to regenerate. In some areas, the height of the trees quintupled in just 6 years. Bare valley sides quickly became forests of aspen and willow and cottonwood. And as soon as that happened, the birds started moving in. The number of songbirds, of migratory birds, started to increase greatly. The number of beavers started to increase because beavers like to eat the trees. And beavers, like wolves, are ecosystem engineers. They create niches for other species. And the dams they built in the rivers provided habitats for otters and muskrats and ducks and fish and reptiles and amphibians. The wolves killed coyotes, and as a result of that, the number of rabbits and mice began to rise, which meant more hawks, more weasels, more foxes, more badgers. Ravens and bald eagles came down to feed on the carrion that the wolves had left. Bears fed on it too, and their population began to rise as well, partly also because there were more berries growing on the regenerating shrubs. And the bears reinforced the impact of the wolves by killing some of the calves of the deer. But here's where it gets really interesting. The wolves changed the behavior of the rivers. They began to meander less. There was less erosion. The channels narrowed, more pools formed, more riffle sections, all of which were great for wildlife habitats. The rivers changed in response to the wolves. And the reason was that the regenerating forests stabilized the banks so that they collapsed less often, so that the rivers became more fixed in their course. Similarly, by driving the deer out of some places and the vegetation recovering on the valley sides, there was less soil erosion because the vegetation stabilized that as well. So the wolves, small in number, transformed not just the ecosystem of the Yellowstone National Park, this huge area of land, but also its physical geography.
Long, long ago, when the people were animals, the world was often cold. And so it was that the animal people met in council to decide what to do. "There are times," said Eagle, "when I fly into the land of the sky people, and notice they have fire. If we had fire," said Raven, "we would always be warm." "The sky people will not give us their fire," commented Bear. "Then we must take some of their fire, to have for our families and those who will come after us," concluded Raven. The animal people continued to discuss this, and agreed to obtain fire from the sky people. They realized no one person would be able to go to Skyland and take the fire by him or herself. "I can fly to Skyland," said Eagle, "but many of you are too heavy for me to carry." "Some of us are fast runners," said Deer, "and can carry the fire. But how can we get to Skyland?" If there was a bridge, we could walk into the sky, said Wolf. I wish we could walk on rainbows, said Spider. Then let us build a bridge of arrows, said Raven. We will shoot the arrows into the sky, one after another, end to end, and then climb up to where the fire is kept. The animal people decided to hold a contest to discover who was so powerful an archer that he or she could shoot the sky, and so accurate that he or she could fit arrows together. One by one, the largest and the strongest of the animal people failed. None was powerful enough to shoot the arrows high enough. Little Wren came forward with a bow made of an elk's rib. What makes you think you can succeed when the rest of us are not strong enough? All I can do is try, said Wren, and he pulled his small bow back, letting the arrow sail away, almost out of sight, until it struck the sky. Sometimes people forget the most powerful are sometimes the smallest, said Spider. They all congratulated Wren, and handed him all of their arrows. One by one, the arrows were loosened. One by one, they were joined together, arching down until the bridge of arrows was within reach. One by one, the four-legged people began to climb, while the bird people flew ahead. I must go among the first, said Bear, since I am one of the best hunters. Eagle looked at the thinness of the bridge and the thickness of Bear, and thought quickly. My dear cousin, said Eagle, it is you who must stay down here and guard the bridge as a way home. And so it was. Bear saw the others leave him. One by one, the animal people entered the land of the sky people, following the signs and scent of smoke to one of the houses that held fire. They positioned themselves as they had planned. Woodpecker knocked on the rooftop of the sky people's home. A sky person came out to see who had knocked, and Woodpecker hurried to the other side, remaining hidden. Seeing no one, the sky person went back inside the house. Beaver lay down in front of the door and waited. Again, Woodpecker knocked and then hid. Again, a sky person came out, surprised to find Beaver, brought him inside the home. Have any of you seen such a strange-looking creature? He asked. No, said Grandmother. I will skin it, she said. It is such beautiful fur. Beaver continued to play dead, and bit even more tightly the skin inside the corner of his mouth. Beaver had the power to take off his skin and not die, as long as he kept even a tiny bit of it on. As Eagle and Woodpecker watched through the smoke hole, the grandmother began to expertly skin Beaver. Again, Beaver bit tightly into the skin inside his mouth, and Woodpecker knocked, more loudly than before. Woodpecker allowed the sky people to see him. The sky people who had never seen a woodpecker before were excited and called to the grandmother to join them. Reluctantly, she put down her knife and joined her family outside. Beaver rolled over in his skin, and he was as good as new. Meanwhile, Woodpecker would allow the sky people to almost catch him and then fly a little ways away, luring them away from their home. Beaver grabbed some of the fire and ran out the door, passing it over to Wolf. The fire was so hot, Wolf could barely hold it as he ran towards the bridge of arrows. The smoke of the fire was blown across his back, leaving a darkened area you will see today. One by one, the animal people passed the fire to one another, and the fire marked each one. The young deer was spotted from the white ashes. Eagle held the fire with his claws away from him, but the white tail feathers carried their tips and turned dark. Robin held the fire too close to her breast, and it scorched her red. Raven held the fire in front of him, and the smoke blew over him, standing in the black he is today. On Earth, Bear began to worry that the others had been gone too long. They probably need me, he thought. They need a strong warrior. Bear patted his large stomach, and worried that the rest of them might be as hungry as he was. And so Bear packed a bundle of food, putting more and more food into it, until it was as large as he was. Balancing the bundle Bear began to climb the bridge of arrows. Well, he had only gone a little way until the bridge was broken apart, and the arrows fell down. Bear looked at what he had done, first feeling terribly guilty. But then he told himself, if they had let me come when I had wanted to, this would never have happened. This is really their fault. And so Bear picked up his bundle and disappeared into the forest, where he is today, avoiding the other animals so he doesn't feel guilty. By now, the Sky People had discovered their fire had been stolen, and were chasing the animal people. Bat and Spider were keeping watch over the bridge of arrows, proud of their responsibility. Bat was a very vain and handsome young man who enjoyed having others admire him. He pulled his blanket more tightly around him as he heard the bridge collapse. Then he fell back to earth. In the distance, Bat and Spider could see the others running towards them, passing the smoky fire between them, with the Sky People close behind. Without hesitation, Spider began to weave a basket to lower the ones who couldn't fly back down. She had them climb in the basket and lowered them down with the fire. A Sky Person grabbed at Bat, who jumped away, falling down. He spread his blanket out to slow himself, catching the wind like he had wings. But he was awkward and hit the ground with his face. This is why, when you see Bat today, his face is all pushed in flat. Brave Spider let the others down safely, but had to leap away from the grabbing hands of the Sky People so quickly that she did not have time to secure a web line for herself, and so fell back down. She landed so hard she broke her legs, which is why you see a spider today. Her legs are bent at such a sharp angle. Proudly, the animal people held up their new fire to show the others. Right at that moment, the angry Sky People sent rain, putting out the fire and making the animal people very sad. Now what shall we do? Asked Frog. Wait, said Beaver. And he showed them a tiny bit of the fire still smoldering beneath one of his claws. But where can we put the fire so the Sky People will never be able to take fire away again? Asked Eagle. And so it was decided that Raven would hide fire in wood. Raven placed the fire into different trees, where we find it even today. Raven. Raven acknowledges that the fire will be there for future generations. The decisions we make today affect generations to come. Spider. Spider reminds the group that sometimes people forget that the most powerful are sometimes the smallest. Don't let perceptions limit possible solutions. Wren. The wren wants to try to shoot the arrow even though nobody believes he is strong enough. Sometimes all you can do is give it a try, because it is not always apparent what a person can or can't do. Bear. Bear feels he should be the first to go because he is the best hunter. It is not always the typical leaders that get us where we need to go. Bear tries to climb into the sky because he feels they need a strong warrior. He breaks the arrows, so he hides in the woods to avoid the other animals. Sometimes our egos get in the way. When we feel guilty, we can blame or avoid others. All animals. No one animal can get in the fire by themselves. More gets done when we work together. Each animal contributed to the process according to their gifts. Everybody has something to contribute to a solution. The animals get marked by the fire. Sometimes the consequences are less when we sacrifice together. Discussion points. Upon completion of the story, ask participants for feedback as to the teachings that they heard in the story. Focus on these teachings during this discussion time and throughout the remainder of the day.
My wife and I lost our son because of alcohol about 5 years ago. And a lot, I think, I recognize that he was going through a lot of difficulty. But there was also, I think, a period where I probably was in denial a lot. Well, it's okay, it's not that bad. And I also kind of felt like, with what little advice I was giving him, that he would be able to seek out help. but it was more severe than that. When he did pass away, I mean, it was the severe shock and the impact of a young person going through this. My wish is that no future parent comes along, Indian parent, will have to go through that.
Death.
Suicide.
Losing family and friends. Kids getting addicted to alcohol.
Alcohol poisoning. ER visits.
Kids who look sick all the time.
My friend's getting sick.
Being hungover.
Severe mood swings.
People spending all their money on alcohol.
Kids being drunk in public.
Bad grades.
Kids dropping out of school.
Legal trouble.
Getting arrested.
Getting arrested.
Arrested.
Ending up in jail.
Jail or juvenile hall.
Kids getting DUIs.
Drunk driving.
Car accidents. Fatal car accidents.
Bad decisions.
Bad decisions. Really bad decisions.
People getting into fights.
Fights. My friends getting in fights.
Injuries. Severe injuries.
Physical and emotional abuse.
Unwanted sex. Unintended pregnancy.
Alcohol is very common in my community.
A little over 50% of kids I know drink.
I say about 70% of teens on my res drink.
70%.
75%.
75%.
Probably 80% of the kids I know drink.
80%. 80% of the kids in my school drink.
Probably 90% of the kids I know drink.
It's really easy to get alcohol.
Underage usage of alcohol in the Indian community is really an epidemic. It's, and I can speak from personal experience because I believe the first time that I got drunk, that I touched alcohol, I was probably about 9, 10 years old.
I was with my cousins and she's like, do you want some? And I'm like, I guess I could try. And then I guess I had a couple sips and it burned my throat. Like less than half an hour later, I had some more, and all I remember is that I was really, really, like I couldn't keep standing or anything.
My vision kind of got blurry. I was kind of slurring with certain words, usually words that I could say, fine, I couldn't say. I kind of got dizzy, kind of drowsy. I noticed that I kind of felt like fighting somebody for no reason.
My cousin was passed out on the bed, and it was just her. She was the only girl there, and there was like 4 or 5 guys. And so she got really messed up.
My cousin did suicide because his girlfriend was thinking about breaking up with him, and he drank a lot, and he hung himself.
Yeah, so my friend, he was out drinking, and then him and his buddies got into a car, and they got into a car accident, and now he's mentally impaired.
The next morning, I couldn't even eat at all through the whole day. I'm never gonna want to feel like that ever again. It wasn't. Yeah.
It was hard for me to say no when I was offered alcohol because all of my friends were already drinking and I already knew the consequences, but I was caught up in the moment and I wasn't thinking straight.
I mean, peer pressure is like I don't know. See, it's like you think about it and you're like, that's bad and I don't want to do it. But then when it's like someone's handing you like the pipe or handing you the bottle, you're just like, let's do it. I mean, it's kind of hard to say no. So I mean, yeah, it's hard to say no.
Well, yeah, it can be really hard to say no sometimes because like then you don't want to feel like the outcast, like, because like I'm a very outgoing person And so I'm like really crazy even without the alcohol. So like I always try to say that like I don't need alcohol to have fun.
Sometimes it's hard to say no, but I know in my head that I'm never going to say yes. Because I know that if I say yes, then I'm just throwing away all my potential.
I mean, looking back at all the things that I've heard of or seen about underage drinking, it's none of them I can think of have been a positive outcome. It's all been negative, and like if you can get nothing positive from drinking, then why do it?
I just think about the outcome and what could happen if like I got in trouble, or think about like what I'm doing to my body.
It's really easy for me to say no to alcohol because I don't want to disrespect my community, my people, and my ancestors.
It's really easy for me to say no to alcohol because two of my cousins died from it.
It's not hard for me to say no because when I say no, it means no, and people know that.
Traditions and values are extremely important because it grounds a youth in what is right and what is wrong, kind of right-mindedness, and it helps them to see the future for themselves.
I do think that the culture can give youth strength, whether you're female or male, because it's something that you can be into, whether it's the dancing or the basket weaving or learning how to cook the traditional foods or making the special clothing that we wear when we dance. It's all things, it's all elements that keep us kind of grounded and not want to venture off to go party and drink alcohol.
You get a connection with your grandparents or your parents or your brothers and sisters when they're trying to teach you how to do a certain thing, whether it's weave a basket or dance at powwows. It's just that connection you have, and you feel special in a way that you don't want to let go. It's your tradition.
It's good to know who you are. And like if you have native traditions, if you're doing this, like if you're out and you're drumming and stuff, you have a drum group, or if you're like making arts and crafts and stuff, you're not on the streets and you're not drinking. Like you have alternatives, healthy alternatives.
I dance and I sing and I don't know, just stuff like that, and like I don't know, I'm spiritually connected to it, you know, like I don't know, like at a powwow and we go and stand by the drums, you can just feel it and just stuff like that. It's a good feeling.
For me, it's just like not many people know of a native. So it's just like being that special person, you know. When I'm at school, I'm not known as a native. Like I went to an all-black school, I was known as the white kid. I went to an all-white school where I was known as the black kid. So just being native is really that special thing that I have. You know, I say that I'm not black, I'm not white, I'm native.
I absolutely love learning about our cultures and traditions.
I love connecting with different generations.
I just love living on the res.
I love this necklace.
I love learning my native language.
I like being unique.
I love playing sticks.
I just love our people.
I'm proud to be native because we are a strong people.
I'm proud to be native because of our dances.
I'm proud to connect with past and present family.
I'm proud that we're still here and fighting.
I'm so proud to be native.
I'm proud to be native for the spiritual connection to the earth.
I'm proud to be native because I'm helping keep my culture alive.
I'm proud of our history.
I'm proud to carry down the genes of my tribe.
I'm proud to be native because that's who I am.
I'm proud to be native because that's who I am.
Our culture is prevention.
Our native culture is prevention.
Our culture is prevention.
Our culture is prevention.
There is an often quoted parable that tells of a man and a woman fishing downstream. Suddenly, a person comes down the river struggling for life. The fisher folk pull her out. Then, another comes and, again, must be rescued. This happens all afternoon, and the fisher folk are getting very tired from constantly pulling people from the river. Eventually, they think, We need to go upstream and find out why so many people are falling in the river. When they go upstream, they find that people are drawn to the edge to look at the river, but there is no safe way to do this. Many of them fall. The fisherfolk go to the community leaders and report the number of people who have fallen into the river. They also report that this is due to the lack of a protective barrier on the cliff. Community leaders build a wall behind which people may safely view the water. Some still fall, but there are fewer victims to rescue. This is the moving upstream analogy for prevention. Instead of expending all resources and energy on rescuing people, why not stop the problem from happening? This is not to say that the problem can be totally eliminated, or at least not right away, but there may be fewer people to rescue downstream.